Hi friends, welcome to another episode of Declutter. In this episode, I would like to cover certain concepts, very fundamental concepts around a topic in physics which I like to call as the virtual work method. Now, the virtual work method is something that is very useful in solving certain Pulley questions. It helps us create a certain constraint motion across pulleys and the masses that are connected to the pulleys. However, before I cover virtual work method, I would like to cover the concept of an ideal string. A lot of us miss out on understanding why a virtual work method is applicable only on an ideal string, which in crude terms is essentially a string that is massless and inextensible. Now, one would ask, why are these two factors for an ideal string important? Why should a string be massless and why should a string be inextensible? For the simple reason that when we solve virtual work method or any other Pulley related questions that are under so-called ideal conditions, we assume the tension across the same string to be constant. Let us quickly dive into why this is the case for a massless and an inextensible string and cover virtual work method in our simultaneous episodes. Alright, so coming to a massless and an inextensible string. All of us know that a string is essentially something that connects a mass. The string can also be connected to a pulley system. It can be straight connected to a mass. Please note that this is string 1 and this is string 2. They are two separate strings and the tension in both these strings will be different. They are not one string. Alright, now let us quickly cover the first topic, which is of the massless string. If we look at a string that is connected to a certain mass, let's look at a very small, very small, microscopic dl length of the string. Now, this portion of the string, if we look at under a microscope, would look something like this, right? There would be a tension element here. There would be a tension plus some delta T. Now this delta T will tend to dt as this thing tends to 0. And if this portion of the string had a mass, there would be a dmg element acting down, where dm is the mass of this very small element. Since this portion is at rest, T plus dt would be equal to T plus dm into g. However, by assuming that this dm tends to 0 when we call the string massless, dt also tends to 0. Hence, to assume that tension throughout the same string is constant, the string needs to be massless. Otherwise, this element dl would have dm equal to mu into dl, where mu is called the linear mass density. And your tension at the bottom end of the string and top end of the string would not be the same. A very fundamental concept, but many times a lot of us tend to miss out on the understanding of this. We also assume that the string is inextensible. Why is this the case? Let us study that now. There is a very interesting concept in material sciences which says that if there is a material of mass m which has a Young's modulus of y, if I'm applying force on either side of the material, my stress is given by force per unit area, where area is the cross-sectional area. And strain is given by delta L by L, where delta L is the elongation in the part of the material. And Young's modulus is defined as the ratio of stress by strain. How does this translate into an ideal string? We assume that an ideal string does not move, or the length of the ideal string, which was the initial length naught, is constant. This helps us form relation between acceleration of various masses connected to the string. If this was not the case, my acceleration of this block of mass m would also depend on the elongation in the string, because if elongation was allowed upon application of mass m, my string would have extended by a certain length. Now the extension would not be this visible. I am just drawing this to show you the enlarged version of how it might look. This is a very, very small elongation, which we tend to ignore. And this is more also applicable in something called Atwood machines, because we assume the length of the string to be the same, so we get a certain relation between the magnitude of acceleration of m1 and magnitude of acceleration of m2. Now, these are two concepts that translate into virtual work method, which we will cover in our next episode. All right, if you have any queries, please feel free to drop it in your comment sections and I will come back to you. If you found this tad bit interesting, do like, share, and subscribe.